Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role at Lumi?
I'm Sylvain Darcy and I'm a product manager at Luni. So Luni is a mobile first company which is based in Bordeaux, France. So we at Luni we focus on building mobile apps. This is our expertise, apps that people enjoy using on their phones. So we've been doing that for almost 10 years now. And so currently I'm leading App Shorts, which is our short drama app that was launched in about 2 years ago, yeah, early 2024.
Could you briefly introduce Shorts?
Yeah, so I was saying Shorts is our short drama app. So it's one of the first and few European short drama apps. So we publish original exclusive series every week or so, and we produce them on in Los Angeles. Um, yeah, we have a production team there.
Personal perspective, how do you define short drama and why do you see the essence or core of it?
Well, for me, I mean, short drama is all about compressing the emotional intensity as opposite as a traditional TV series. In a TV series, you have the luxury of setting the story, building the tension in 3 episodes. In short drama, you have to do it in 3 minutes. But it's really about compressing that emotion. The essence of short drama is that every episode must end on something that makes stopping feel uncomfortable for the viewer. So in that sense, it might be much closer to a novel that would read rather than a film on TV. What you try to do with short drama is to create that compulsion through emotional cliffhangers rather than cinematic craft or complex narrative. This constraint makes also what is a short drama, because when you have only a few minutes, every second of your drama must count, must earn its place.
On Shorts, what retention rate do you see consider strong for a successful title? At what point do you feel confident scaling a show?
Of course, we closely looked at this retention curve across the first 15 episodes I was mentioning before. But what we want is that we have really a smooth curve. But when users hit the paywall, you can see a drop. The goal is for this drop to be the lowest possible. But a good retention rate for us, so various metrics. One general metric is the open series to finish any episode. If that is around 80%, this is a good sign of a good show for us. And then by episode 20, if we manage, so from all the users that open the series that reach the 20th episode, around 65 to 70%, it's the sign of a hit for us. And of course, really the end of the stories. But we see that when you reach past of the show, so let's say a 20th, 25th episode, most of them go to the end because they have paid already. Really, the key point is having them pass the first paywalls. By finishing a show around between 50 and 60% of the users finishing a show, sorry, is the sign of a hit for us. I mean, we've been in the industry 2 years now. We rely a lot on data. So we can see pretty early. So if we reach this retention is open to finish 80% and episode 20 being around 60, 70%, this is a sign that we can scale the show. But of course, there are also the marketing signs, but everything's linked. But if we have good ROAS, good LTV on the first push of the marketing campaign, this is also the sign that the show will, a sign that we can scale the show.
Currently, I know paid user acquisition still plays a major role in short drama distribution. So when evaluating paid campaigns, what data signal do you focus on most? So do this signal influence content creation or genre selection?
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, the primary signal will be the return on ad spend of each series, which is driven by the cost per first purchase. We don't really look at the cost per install because we would say an install is just a visitor when the purchase is the user that really converted. Other thing that's key also is the conversion rate of the creative, because it will give us an early signal of if the story hooks and if that resonates with the audience that have entered the app. And so for genre selection, this is marketing is the best way of testing our content. So really there is I don't know, two-way relationship between marketing and production and script writing, because we gather a lot of data from marketing. We can say, looking at the conversion rate or the ROAS of a campaign, we can see which specific hooks or genre tropes are working for a specific audience. And so this impacts our content production afterwards.
Those ad creatives are added from the microdrama, right? The show. But
Yeah.
how do you know if those ad creatives didn't perform well in the market? How do you know it's the ad creatives problem or the ad buying team's problem, the marketing team's problem?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have the answer to that. There's always something between the content team thinks the marketing team I didn't push the right ads and the other way around. But clearly it's about data. If the hooks, I was saying the content team is also selecting the ad moments from a script and pushes them to the marketing team. So the marketing team use these ad moments. They are also doing their own creatives and their own edits. But since we are testing a lot, when we reach a certain amount of testing and that nothing works, can say so. Nothing works meaning the cost per first purchase is really high. The conversion, the CVR of the conversion rate of the ads are bad. Once we have tested enough, we have the answer to the question that the series, the hooks are not strong enough. The series is not performing and it's not on the marketing team.
In some markets, paid acquisition deliver fast feedback, while long-term social media operations receive less focus. How should platform balance paid traffic and organic growth, especially in overseas markets?
The main thing is paid acquisition. I think you need marketing, deep paid marketing expertise to exist as the short drama app. And the thing is that we can see that most of the platform they rely heavily on paid marketing. For testing a new market, in paid marketing will give you answers more quickly than any organic campaign you would run. You can test different creatives, how your creatives, how your stories resonate to the audience. So to me, this is really the primary. But if I was mentioning, we also have our own organic channels. They are here to support the paid marketing, but without paid marketing, it's hard for them to exist, I would say. But there's also something I was saying it's everything is about the script, about your story. So if your script is written well enough, if your hooks are good enough, I think you should be able to get organic traffic through either users sharing your content because they find it good, or even just pushing the free episode. For example, for us, all the free episodes are pushed on the social media for free organically. And this is also a way to attract users in another way. But organic must be something like 20% something for traffic.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
Hi, my name is Luisa Orozco. I am a film director and showrunner. I have more than 15 years of work experience in TV channels and platforms. I come from long format television formats, including reality, dramas, premium streaming series. But also I have been co-directed short formats for real shorts in Colombia. So that's my background. And I also working as a showrunner for documentary series and transmedia storytelling.
How did you get into the short drama industry?
I get into the short drama industry because in Latin America there is a blooming of this industry. So I had the opportunity to co-direct one series that is 82 episodes for real shorts. That was my first approach to the vertical formats.
What was your first experience? If you could, let's say, read down again, is there something you want to improve, or what kind of lessons or experience you want to share?
I have a lot of learnings, and I believe that there is a lot of difference between traditional shooting for TV formats and short vertical. For instance, the vertical short formats needs a different kind of framing, different type of blocking between actors as well, because the framing is so narrow. You have to be aware of the movement between the actors. Also, the background is very different, because sometimes in cinema or even in premium series, the background and the ambient tell the story, the characters are lost or they are like inside the ambient, but in short formats, all the tension must be focused in between the characters, and the characters always speak a lot with their body language. So it's more about close-ups. The backgrounds are not necessarily well developed. So in that sense, production cost could be adjusted, and you can be wise in that sense, I guess for vertical formats, I would say there is a different type of relation also with the camera, because sometimes in cinema, the camera works like the actor works for the camera, and here the actors must to be working for camera and be so aware about the framing that he is positioning, because otherwise it's going to be very messy, like the framing and all the things. So also that's another thing that I really believe, that you have to be very precise on your setting and your blocking, because to do it as fast as you have to do it, you have to be very time efficient.
What kind of preparation did you do before shooting the vertical drama?
We always make pre-production, doing like a tech scout in the places we have. Also, like when you have some format that you have to adapt locally, that it was our case. We have to adapt a different, like a format that it was already done in China, but we localize it to Latam. So the challenge in that sense is you have to apply all the narrative through your characters, through your sets, through your locations, through your actors. So your work is to reply, but also give your own taste, your own culture to that. So that's the challenge, and that's what we do. And there is a lot of prep. I guess the key is to do a very efficient and organized pre-production, as in all the formats, In cinema, you are going with all your shooting plan very detailed in order to get the things done. So I believe that that's a very important stage of vertical formats. Also because the time to produce it is fast. So you have to be very time wise.
We know our short dramas often produce under tight schedules. So how do you maintain those emotional intensity while working efficiently?
That's a very good question. And I really believe that there is like a technical aspect of the preparation, and there is a acting part of the preparation. Somebody have to, like, for me, the director have to be on charge of the actors and taking care of the emotional narrative and consistency, and work very like hand to hand with the DOP, because the DOP for me is on field, the one that have to be on charge of the technical aspects. like more reliant in the lights and preparation of the sets. Everyone, no, like arts on their background and so on and so forth. But for us, like we do like this, we do the blocking that each director have his own methods, but for me works like doing blocking not only for a scene, more for sequences, and build a sequence with all people, like all the crew, but also the actors on field. And once everyone have clear about the settings from the sequence, we can go, like I will retire with the actors to work more, develop the dramatic tensions and all the things that we need to work with them. Meanwhile, the DOP are taking care of the lighting and technician details and maybe using stunts like for set up the lightings. And once you are technically ready or emotionally ready with the actors, we go and shoot. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get on point. And also the first ID is a very important role for me because you are always looking forward, no? You are always preparing in advance the other set with technicians, with art, the department. Everything must to be almost ready once you get there.
You share your experience of adapting a documentary and share on social media.
For instance, we have a TV series where based on an old literature book of a Hispanic Colombian book that was not well known for the younger generation. So what we do was like pitch for a series, a premium that was made produced by Quinto Color and in partnership with the public TV channels and the help with the Ministry of New Technologies there in Colombia. So they all joined together to make the new TV series in this very famous book, but the younger generation doesn't know anything about the book. So what we do, we use we in charge of the digital strategy on all the platform digital content, and what we do is localize and build a narrative to different audiences, because you can talk the same way to people in the youngest, like in the forest or in the countryside of our country. You can talk in the same way to a younger young people in the city. So we do a lot of different type of content, not promos, content relatable to get the attention from that audiences to know the series and to know the book, to read the book. So it was very successful exercise, really. And it became like one of the most important Latin American productions, renowned like by the Hollywood Reporter, and they reach a global audience because HBO buy it. So because it was like a digital success, and it was like more than 27 countries talking about this book. So we translate like a very localized book, old book. The topic was very interesting because it was about the Amazonas like adventure, and it was the life of a young poet who escaped with a woman and get lost in the middle of the jungle. And through that, like human and universal story, we tailor a lot of different type of contents to grab the attentions to different type of audiences. And also there was like a big denounce in that book about the slavery of the indigenous people. So we analyze the different topics of the book, and we tailor different type of contents and deliver through social media, and it becomes very famous. So like it's not about us like a digital strategies, it's about the content itself, because the content must to be very good quality, very like very good story. But you definitely can use digital channels to build audiences. That's something that we have been done in Latin America, and we know that is very success if you do it not only using as a promo, not only clipping the main storytelling, and that this works. No, I am not saying that it doesn't work, but it's not enough. Like you have to build narrative ecosystems through all the channels in order to grab the attention and go to see your full TV series, for instance.
Can you explain more? Because you mentioned you choose different content to different local audience, for example, for younger people or for middle age, for rural areas. What kind of content did you choose for them?
Yeah, exactly. Like, for instance, we analyzed the topics that we were talking about. Like, some of them are very niche on the Colombian literature. So we get in contact with people who are really well known in Colombian literature and who can speak properly about the adaptation of this novel through the literature form. So we talk with them, we make content with them. We also localize, for instance, music was one of the main strategies from Quinto Color to grab the attention between the folklore, the traditional music of the countryside of our country, and the younger generation. So we do like a mix between a very famous folklore musician with a very young and trendy pop singer. So they do together a song for the TV series. And we release the video clip, and we do a lot of digital content to mix these two worlds together. So the tradition with the modernity of the other singer was very important to also to like the attention of different type of niches and audiences in order to know about the TV series and for sure about the book.
Yeah, that's a very intriguing example of how to attract different audience to a local story and just this story being seen again to a wider audience.
Like we are part of that big project because, as I mentioned before, this is strategy we build with TV channels and our allies in Colombia that are the production house who develop all the series, who is Quinto Color. And we have been working with them more than 5 or 6 years doing transmedia products and a lot of docuseries. So we are very on deep relation to bring digital content, not as a promo, but to be a really narrative through the main projects that we are developing.
How do you define short drama? What's the essence or core of short drama?
I guess attention. Like the essence of short drama is grab the attention and maintain the attention. And this is something that applies through the narrative. That is something that applies to the framing, to the blocking, to everything that you do in short drama must to be like guide, but grab and sustain the attention of the audience.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
We are not building a new format. I really believe that we are like in ahead of a new ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, vertical drama could be really not a replace of cinema, not a replace of TV, but it will be an expand language of storytelling. And also, I really believe that could be a very good ecosystem to develop and make grow the industries here in MENA, there in China, and also in Latin America. So it's very nice to see how we'll be evolved in the upcoming years.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in the short drama industry?
My name is Jimmy. I run Vertical Film Vancouver. We've produced to date approximately 27 verticals, and I have worked with most major vertical platforms. I am the owner of Vertical Film Vancouver, and we produce verticals.
And how did you first enter short drama space?
Yeah, fun fact, I was the very first production company to produce a vertical in Vancouver. I was shooting a narrative at the time, and we got approached in December 2023. I didn't make much of it at the moment, and I just thought it was a whatever content that nobody's gonna watch. But as I dug deeper into the later months, I realized that the market is real and it's full of opportunities.
What did you find out? How do you do the research, and what do you find out? Why do you think it has great potential?
At first, I was being offered to do these lower budget verticals, and then I got looped into a couple production bids, which I realized there's some money to be made here. The margins aren't super big, but as I dug deeper into the references that was provided to me from the platforms, these people, they're like, oh, watch this one, watch that one. I realized that, oh, this is a movie, but in 9x16. Then I realized that there was some budget behind it, but it's still quite new in the North American space, and it's more established in the Chinese space at that point. So I realized that this space is about to be developed in the North American market.
So how do you choose the topics, and how do you design the whole structure of the story? How do you choose the theme?
We look for the partnership requirements. We look for what the platform values. We look what works in that current niche. And then we sort of narrow it down through like a process of elimination to find the right be producing.
Yeah, for example, I'm the producer from platform, right? So am I going to tell you those niche are what we want currently?
I mean, that can happen. There are different forms of collaboration, and sometimes people come to us with several scripts already and say, hey, can you make us another variant of this? It's a same story, different shell. And some of them are a little bit more vague and looking for more guidance on, hey, we're looking for a story in this genre, but we don't have the story mapped out yet. So it's all individual, really is contingent on what the platform is looking for and where they're at with their product.
Or they give you a brief idea, like just the genre or a brief idea?
Both. It happens both ways. I mean, we don't work only with one platform, right? We've worked with 6 or 7, maybe more than that. So everybody have their different requirements.
And then you pitch the story to the platform and they agreed. And then what's the developing process?
That's a good question. It's also contingent on how fast they need it. If they want to get it done within like 7 days, we'll have to make something happen within 7 days, right? But if it's more of like a reasonable timeline, say like a 1 to 2 month development process, then that's when, you know, we would come up with like a 50 episode outline. And then from there, we get QC'd, we get notes and whatnot, and we'll revise it to a second outline. And then we move into the script writing stage. And then we'll revise it again based on their notes. And then we'll finalize on the final shootable script.
Let's say they have a green light on the script. And then what's the procedure? You will do the casting and you show the actors, the profile to the platforms, right?
Then we go like, give us money and money now. And then we'll be signed. And then and now we kick off officially on the pre-production, production, and process. And that usually in total takes about 2 to 3 months, give or take.
For example, when I was working in a Chinese platform as a producer, so what I do is I need to make sure the casting. So they will send me different profiles, different actors. So I would think, okay, these two might got chemistry. I might agree on these 2 or 3 actors. And then I need to make sure the casting is okay, and they need to send me the major locations. Or if they want to change the script, I need to make sure that the script can be changed. I can say no to their changes. So I just want to understand the procedure when you're working with those platforms.
I think as mentioned earlier, different platforms call for different requirements. So there's that, not just one set model. But yeah, with that being said, we are open to making it work, of course, with the platforms, because in the end, they are distributing it. So there's a certain level of quality control that is to be anticipated. The pre-production, production process It's all quite similar, I think, across the board. It's just which team does it better and quicker and smoother. And otherwise, it's pretty standard across the board of what everybody's doing. We make sure the client expectations are met, but the expectations also have to be realistic and beneficial for the product as a whole. And that's what we aim to provide.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
My name is Ezekiel and run Drama Beats. It's a creative studio and we develop original IPs for vertical productions.
When film and TV writers move into micro dramas or short dramas, what are the most common mistakes they make? Can you share a concrete example?
Yes, for example, I think that the dialogue, because in micro drama, the dialogue, they don't have a lot of subtext, right? It's more clear, right? Not obvious, but it's more clear. So this is the big mistake for writers. And also, they don't control very well the pace because they don't know that at the first episode, you need to immediately grab the attention, right, with an inciting incident. So basically, I think that the dialogue is a big difference between the standard shows or standard features to comparing that with the microdrama dialogue. They don't have a lot of subtext. They are more clear, for the audience. Sometimes they don't write taking in consideration the production, right? Because they start put a lot of characters, a lot of location, and this is something that is not going to work very well for microdramas. You need a few characters, you need a few locations in order to adjust the script to the production, the budget of the production. So this is a common mistakes that I found in the traditional writers that they want to write microdramas.
Right now, overseas, the short dramas are still low budget, which means if you keep your characters like as little as you can or locations as little as you can, but still have a good story, that which means script is easier to sell.
Exactly, yes, exactly. You need to adapt the script to the production requirements. This is very, very important, right? I mean, if you write, you're a production, you don't write for yourself. Right. So this is a very important thing that the writer, they should take in consideration.
You just mentioned about the dialogues. Do not write many subtext. Why is that?
Because the audience, I mean, they don't have to think the second intention for a character, they don't, everything should be clear, everything should understandable, right? So that's why you don't have the time, to create, because the subtext is about creating like a second intention, So in the case of microdrama, everything should be more clear for the audience. This is something that happens, For example, I submit a few months ago some scripts, for an app, and they decide to reject the scripts because they have a lot of subtext. So that's why I decide to tell the advice for the writers, don't write with a lot of subtext. Be more clear, don't write second intentions. The complexity of the characters is different from the complexity of a standard show or a feature films. So this is what I think, I mean, you need to write a good dialogue for sure, but you don't use so much subtext like in a standard show or in a standard feature.
When developing script for platforms, let's say, what does your workflow typically look like?
Yes, the workflow. Well, first, I contact with the company. We have a deck of 20 IPs or 25. So I send the deck to the company and they choose a log line, right? I send log lines. And then once they choose a log line, I send a sample, right, of 5 episodes from that log line, from that IP. And if they decide to move forward with the project, usually the workflow is about 3 weeks to develop the final script, between 3 weeks and 4 weeks. And we have 2 revisions of the script. And basically, the process is about 1 month, no more than that.
You don't write the full script, right? You basically have an outline of the story and 5 episodes, like, for example, for them to read.
Yes, we first, before they start the process, the workflow, we send the sample. And once they accept the sample, we start to develop the script, right? We have 2 revisions, and the final draft of the script is going to be delivered in approximately 1 month or 3 weeks. Yes, depending of the production or the app requirement. But usually the workflow is no more than 1 month between the moment they read the pilot and then the moment we deliver the final script, the final draft.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
Yes. Hi, I'm Lala Costa, and I'm about to say Lala Costa. I am 5'6" in Los Angeles because that's what they make us slate as actors for auditions. But I am Lala Costa, and I am an actor turned writer, and I'm also an attorney that decided to become an actor. So how I got into the drama industry is about December 2023. I started to see the breakdowns for these, it would say vertical, or it would say like short form, but it wasn't that clear. And I started to book in my first one, but it's on IMDb somewhere. And that was a lot of fun. And I loved how, they explained it to me. Oh, it's a new format. They somewhat explained to me the crew. It's going to be drama. It's going to be for the phones. And a lot of us weren't really sure, a lot of us actors, but I loved it. And next thing I know, I was in the trailer for that particular one. Someone tell me, hey, you're using your voice and the trailer starts with you. So I thought, well, that's fun. And I've been auditioning and getting offers ever since.
Is any way that performing in these microdramas helps you with the writing?
It does, because, I'm reading all these scripts, and then I was writing before microdrama. So like I've done a solo show. And so I know how to write, like I did like monologues and characters. I create a lot of comedy characters that have drama to them, There's like always this little sad thing going on, like with them. But then when I start getting any scripts and now the microdramas, you're reading them. I mean, not everything audition I do, right? I don't get offered everything. So I'm reading so many scripts, and then you get to see like, oh, this is what people are interested in. And then you click with it. I've tried to find something like, I see, this is what is getting people interested in that person. And then how I do it is like, I'm creating something. How would I tell how would I tell you the story? I have to make it interesting, right? If I'm going to tell you something, oh yeah, this person here and they got married and whatever. But if we go out for happy hour and have a drink, be like, let me tell you, right? And you're going to make it into the moments that you need and the beats that you need, right? And the cliffhanger, however you want to call them, because everyone has different wording for it. But yeah, a good storyteller, a good friend that tells you some juicy gossip, like people call it here, they're gonna tell you like extra stuff, right? Because that's the one that was married to the other one. What? Yeah, no, remember she was married to the other guy first. I didn't know they were married before, and they're friends now, and all those little layers. And you not necessarily don't write everything, but like, for example, when you're acting and it's not my script, you get like to do this. I guess my acting coach would say, you do like homework. You get this like a nice mom that's struggling with her kids because the husband left, something simple, right? And then you kind of create for yourself like, oh, I wonder why he left. They don't tell you in the script everything. Wonder why he left. Oh, and then you use from your own imagination. Oh, maybe he left because she was too smart. She was so smart and he was like jealous that and then you bring that to set. The same thing when I write, then I would say, if I want to write this really nice mom, I just wrote it, by telling you, I just wrote, she's really smart. She's top of the class. And he never did as good as her. And then after they got married, he just couldn't deal with the jealousy. And now you have this conflict in a marriage that you're like, oh my God, but that's her husband. Why does he love her? Well, she's too smart.
For the writing part, how do you develop your original projects? How do you decide what topics or concept to pursue?
Start with like something simple, like I see something at a store in an outfit and I think like, who would wear that? And then from there, I'm like, maybe I come up with a name, Flor, like flower, in Spanish, because I write in Spanish. What would she be like? Is she like fabulous? I think so. And then from there, like, why is she fabulous? And so I can get the idea really from anywhere. I start with characters, and then the story comes. I know a lot of people do story.
Is there any writing technique you would like to share with the writers, if they're writing some long form dramas or films, they want to write micro dramas. What's your suggestion?
I'm gonna go back to gossip. How would you tell someone the story and just do the beats as you were telling someone and you visualize it? I like to visualize it. So I like to imagine, see it in my mind, and then I start writing it, get inspired by really anything. I write more as an actor because I'm an actor first, and then I started to write more and more as an actor because the assignments were like, oh, write about the character. And then that's how you prepared your acting. You get a play, actors prepare all kinds of ways, but one way is to create a backstory, right? So I would suggest to people, they want to write, if you write more character based like I do, and then the story comes together, you could even see someone down the street and you go, oh, that person's over there. They look dressed so nice. Went to Nordstrom and I saw this woman dressed wonderful, had a Chanel purse, and then she didn't wash her hands in the bathroom. I noticed this and I thought, who has this fancy outfit, Chanel purse at Nordstrom in Century City, but she doesn't wash her hands? And I heard it flush. This very well-off woman that has no manners. You're creating this very rich but very kind of gross person. And then who is she married to? And then the story can come together. The other way also works that you go, I'm going to write a story about a school and a teacher and all that. But now you got to figure out who are the people in it. I write more where I know a lot of people, and I think about how would I write this person in that situation? Or me, how would I write me if I was this other job, like I was a doctor. What kind of doctor would I be?
For the first 10 episodes before the paywall, what writing strategies would you recommend?
That was something interesting that I guess I get ahead of your questions because I'm thinking as a whole. I think the best thing is to keep the person interested in like what is the new discovery on each episode. So I like for them to discover or be like thinking, what is the intrigue? What can I find out? And then the more you kind of have the audience, just like any other, you don't want to reveal everything too soon, but you want to tease, like even right now, what am I going to say? You don't know. I like that aspect of, a little tease. Maybe you think that's going to happen, but then no, it's not going to happen yet. Teasing.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and Gakko Club?
My name is Tada Satoshi, and I'm the founder of Gokko Club. I actually grew up in China from the age of 5 all the way through middle school. Then I moved back to Japan for high school. After returning to Japan, I started working as an actor. When I was around 26, I came across short drama in China, and I felt like this could really grow in Japan. Since I'm an actor myself, I reached out to a few actor friends and also some cinematographers. We formed a small team and started creating short dramas together. We believed there was a real opportunity to build a strong short drama market in Japan. And today, our company has grown to around 110 to 120 people.
When you first saw this kind of short drama, what made you feel it had strong potential in the future?
There are many elements to this, but for me, the biggest one was this. As AI and technology keep developing, I feel that face-to-face, human-to-human connection becomes even more powerful. It's not about whether you use technology or not, or whether you use AI. There's something about the power between people.
Can you give a quick example?
Instead of using a smartphone, you have to dial numbers manually. You need to actually remember the phone number in your head. It's that kind of old school way of doing things. Basically, it relies a lot on human action. Nothing is automatic, everything feels manual.
When you first saw short drama in China, what kind of human-to-human connection did you notice?
If everything is fully automated, then globally, it starts to feel more like robots or something very sci-fi. But the kind of short dramas I saw back then were very ordinary. You know what I mean? They felt very human, very grounded, very real.
We call this down market or grassroots content. For example, a lot of these stories are set in rural areas, focusing on everyday life, family conflicts, arguments between couples, cheating, disputes over land, things like that. It's really about what happens in ordinary people's daily lives.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of friction between people, something that can only happen in real human relationships. So for me, from the very beginning, the more advanced technology becomes and the more AI develops, the more valuable this kind of grassroots content becomes. That's something I strongly believe in. When I first saw it, I had this thought. This kind of content reflects the most authentic state of human life. And because of that, its value will only keep increasing. The question then becomes, how do we elevate this kind of content? And how do we bring it to more people?
Have you done any research on Chinese short drama? If so, what kind of research have you done?
I did a lot of research. At the beginning, I had never written a script, and I had never made any work myself because I was only an actor. So I studied Chinese short dramas closely to understand how they were made. What I realized is that in traditional storytelling, whether it's a film or a TV series, the structure usually follows 4 steps. Setup, development, twist, and resolution. Historically, stories have often been told in this kind of structure. That's how films and TV dramas are usually built, but when I looked at Chinese short drama, I felt it worked very differently. It often skips the setup, and it also skips much of the development. Instead, it brings the twist right to the very front. In other words, the strongest conflict, the most powerful dramatic moment in the story, is placed right at the beginning to immediately hook the audience. And then, just when you feel like the scene is about to end, it gives you another turn. So, from my perspective, the setup and development are no longer the most important parts to show directly. A lot of that information is naturally built into the dialogue. For example, when 2 people are fighting, their lines will naturally reveal their relationships. Who is the mother? Who is the brother? Who is the younger sister? So you don't need to spend much time explaining those relationships in advance. You don't need long explanatory scenes to establish who belongs to whom, or who is whose neighbor, or other background details like that. So when I studied Chinese short drama, I felt that it was almost entirely built around the twist, and then a quick resolution. Once I understood that, when I started writing short drama scripts in Japan, I also began building them mainly around twist and resolution. That is one of the key things I learned from Chinese short drama and chose to keep.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
Hi, this is Holmes. I'm a Chinese filmmaker. I'm mostly working on short drama industry. I've been working on this area since 2021. Over the years, I've been witnessing the rapid evolution of the short drama, and I've been shooting a lot of short dramas over the years.
How do you define short drama, and what do you think the essence or core of short drama?
I think it's very hard to define because the definition of short drama has been changing over the years. When I first came to the idea of a short drama, 2020, nobody has done that, and short drama could be both horizontal and vertical. The length could be last from like 3 to 5 minutes, or even 1 to 2 minutes. And 2021, Mongol TV start doing the short dramas, but it's a short version of the dramas. It will be like 10 minutes per episode. And then in 2023, we enhanced the length to 15 minutes to 20 minutes an episode for horizontal platforms. When we keep doing this in 2024 and 2025, it goes back to 1 to 3 minutes. The total episodes could be 60 episodes to 100 episodes, and it goes back to vertical. So the definition of short drama actually keeps changing. It's a revolution. It's a liquid experience when I make this so-called short dramas. Nobody has the very precise, and nobody can say, oh, this is short dramas, because it keeps changing. But I think in 2025, I can say the definition of short drama finally, I think, is concluded, because Hongguo appears, I think, and short drama would be verticals, would last 1 to 3 minutes, maybe longer, like 3 to 5 minutes. But it's an expression of the traditional long story drama. So it compressed the story, like the main conflicts, and it takes away all the fat, and it just keeps the absolute core of the story. So you can say that's the short drama.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it
Yes,
change,
and
it shifts.
yes, and I think there's an interesting note I want to say that so the so-called short dramas back then, a few years ago, we make like horizontal, like 10 minutes per episode short drama. Now the definition of that kind of short drama becomes middle drama. The definition just changed. The investors and the platforms, they invest less and less on this kind of longer version of dramas. So they invest more on the middle dramas. So they want to call the 20 minutes per episode dramas to like, they want to put a new name to it. It's called middle drama.
And in States, that's called verticals or vertical drama.
Yes.
They're all vertical. They didn't
they're
know
all
we
verticals.
also got this horizontal micro drama in China before.
When I met all those people, like the filmmakers and the actors overseas, in their understanding, short dramas are absolute verticals. They just call it verticals. Verticals equals short dramas.
What's the difference between micro drama and TV or TV series?
TV dramas, like traditional TV and film, emphasize on the completeness of the story. You have to build a realistic, believable world. And short drama, on the other hand, it doesn't have to, it can skip the whole process of building the whole world and building the logic. It can go straight into the climax of the character tension, the character dynamics, and the emotional push and pull. So we don't have to, we can skip the whole process, the setup, the afterwards. We can just go into the key, the most tasted part of the story. Short drama is just the best part of the story and cuts away the rest of it.
Short drama should be directly to the climax or what's happening in the story. I'm just curious, you mentioned about it's not very logical. I'm not sure my rephrase is right. Why do you think short drama is not logical?
So I don't think I expressed like precisely on the logical one. I think the logic would be the traditional TV emphasize on the logical and the realistic. It has a lot of setups and it has a lot of other characters to help building a complete world. But short dramas, it builds on the story on a everybody knows scenario. Like we build the whole story on a Twilight Zone, it's a horror and suspenseful world. We build the story on the modern city, like a New York City world, and you don't have to spend time telling me like the age of the city. It doesn't have to be like, you just show the male and female, the lead characters, and show their tensions, and you can cut away the setup. I think that's not logical. It's like you don't have to worry about the audience don't have no idea about the background. It's a scenario that everybody knows, and I think the idea of short drama is born in China, and it actually is born from the concept called web novel. The web novel has been developing in China for over 10 years, and it creates a lot of different genres. It's so specific. It creates a very large audience, like understanding different genres. So short dramas is built on this base. It's just from text to videos. So you don't have to explain too much. The target audience knows the background and the genres very well. So you just tell a story within these genres. And I see a lot of people try to mix genres. They don't have a very satisfying outcome when they try to do that, because short dramas is very specific, that this is about traditional, this is about like modern city love, about boy and girl. And when you try to add some suspense genres in this, it's very hard for the audience to accept it.
After my interview with Holmes, we kept chatting in Chinese about short drama. There was a part I really liked, so I used AI voiceover and added it here.
Short drama, as a vertical format, actually carries a lot more meaning. It's not just about the 3-second hook or things like cliffhangers. I think the core of it is actually social. It's shareable. It's built for mobile. In a way, it's something different, not just about dopamine or addiction. For short drama to really take off, it has to be shared. People need to post it on TikTok or spread it quickly across platforms. That's the real mechanism behind it. And honestly, you can get addicted to a TV series too. It's not like only short-form content can create that kind of engagement.
If I watch a great show on Netflix, I'd share it too, right?
But it's actually not that easy to make it shareable. I think my perspective is still very much based on Chinese short drama. If something really takes off in China, it's because of its social media nature. It's extremely easy to spread. Actors will even jump in, interact with the audience, do live streams, all of that. And that part is very important. It's not just a show, it's much more than that.
The first round of distribution is usually paid traffic, ad buying. Then the second round happens when it starts to gain traction. Fans begin to share it organically. They clip it, repost highlights, spread interesting moments. That's the second layer of distribution.
Yeah, you really have to look at short drama from a shareability perspective, and also its short-form video. If you treat it like traditional TV or traditional filmmaking, it's almost guaranteed to fail. It's just not the same thing.
Yeah, but maybe it's because traditional shows, like those on Netflix, Stormkirk, are much longer. Even if you share a clip, people don't really know what the story's about. It's harder for them to immediately understand or get hooked.
If you compare it to traditional platforms like Youku or Tencent, that's more of a shelf logic. You have a menu of content, and maybe a few shows get placed at the top for promotion, but that visibility might only last a week. Netflix works in a similar way. You have featured titles placed in certain shelves. But TikTok, and short drama in general, works differently. It's algorithm-driven. Content is pushed based on user behavior. The more you watch something, the more of that content you get. So in a way, we're no longer just making content for audiences, we're making content for the algorithm. If your content fits the algorithm, it gets pushed further.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role at COL Group?
Hi guys, I think if you're in the microdrama space, you've probably seen my face a lot. So I'm the GM of COL Group International. My name is Tim, and I'm based in Singapore. My role focuses on the expansion of the microdrama industry internationally, largely with the distribution of content, and also the expansion of the platforms that we own. One of them would be Flareflow. So that's in summary my job, but the day-to-day is so much.
What about COL Group? Could you briefly introduce it?
Sure. So COL Group has been around for the last 26 years. It's a listed company in Shenzhen and with headquarters in Beijing. So we are originally an IP company, the second largest IP company in China. We were one of the first companies to venture into the microdrama space back in 2021, and also were one of the first companies to go into the US to expand on the microdrama space, and we have found a lot of success. Through the years, we have always been pushing the microdrama evolution. We are in a very interesting time. I think there are more and more competitors, more and more participants in this area. But then collectively, we are still one of the biggest platforms in the world.
Flareflow is one of your products, I would say. Could you briefly introduce Flareflow and its positioning in the short drama market?
Flareflow launched in 2025, mid-year, and within a very short period of time, Flareflow became number one in the US, and obviously the numbers does fluctuate in terms of positioning, but with hundreds of platforms that have launched, Flareflow is still within the top 10, sometimes top 5, which I think is quite remarkable. And I think one of the biggest success factor with regards to Flareflow is its experienced team. I think, it really does help that we have a team of people that really knows how to do this differently. And also is backed by the massive IP library that from COL. As of February this year, we have exceeded over 30 million registered users, and we have released over 5,000 drama series. The platform is available in more than 200 countries and 14 different languages. it's been quite an exciting time for us.
What type of genres or story formats currently perform best on Flearflow?
Actually, we have a lot of it is, to be honest, like what you expect, the romance genres, the CEO genres, the revenge genres, but we are really rapidly expanding. By the time this interview goes out, there should be some exciting announcement about the expansion of genres and categories. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but yeah, it's very much in the same vein where, you know, our core audience has been the audience that has fundamentally started loving microdramas. So these genres do persist, but I do think that, you know, we are at this stage where we need to really grow and push the boundaries outside of these genres. And there's always this debate, right? Like, you know, if you don't have the demand, you have to create the demand. So the natural fact is that there is a demand for female romance genres, and that's why there is so much supply. But now there is an oversupply. So now we need to see how we can expand this with, you know, creating more demand for people who have not started watching microdramas and have them hooked into it.
From your perspective, how do you define short drama, and what do you see its the core or essence?
The core essence of microdrama is, I think, you know, fits into the way this new world that we live in, which is very much short attention span, as well as the need for a fast result and fast payoff. You know, even now, you and I, when we use AI to get answers, right? In the past, we have to Google. Even further past, we have to go to the library to search for answers. Today, we get ChatGPT or, like, you know, in international perspective, or Gemini, you can get answers within 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And even sometimes when it's generating, you're like, why is it so slow? So the society has changed to be so impatient. And microdrama's core essence is to meet the need for this shift and demand of a fast answer and fast payoff. And I would be surprised that now the series are like 90 episodes. In the future, maybe they are like even shorter because people don't have the attention span to look to that. So I think the core essence is that it is because people want fast payoff and they want to see things and answers very quickly.
So leading platform group, how do you use data in decision making? For example, when you evaluating a short drama, which performance matrix matter most, such as retention rate, completion rate, or LTV, and how do these signals influence promotion strategies and future content direction?
For me, the most important matrix is actually the average revenue per daily active user. So at the end of the day, it's all about how much revenue we can make and whether if this is going to pay for itself, and are we able to you know, reinvest this money to do more productions and also appeal to the same group of audience. You know, I think views is important, but at the same time, and completion rate is important, right? But at the same time, you know, we are a business, and with any business, revenue is key. So I would prioritize that over anything else. You know, there is a demand for microdramas. It is very clear. So if you were to put a show on YouTube or any, like, even Dailymotion, you will get the views. But it doesn't mean that you're going to make money out of this. And I think that misconception is that, you know, you have a lot of views means you have a lot of money. Even with like apps like Netflix and you know, Apple, right? They don't disclose the exact views of the series, and you don't really know how much money they make. My point is that, you know, at this point where of this game, which could change, what really matters is the average revenue that each user bring.
Because I know for the revenue, they're also related to how much you spend on promoting these content. And I know, like, currently paid user acquisition still plays a major role in short drama distribution. So when evaluating paid traffic campaigns, and which data signals do you focus on most So do those fake news influence content creation or genre selection? If so, how?
There is always a need to protect and ensure that the current audience group is their needs and expectations are met. But at the same time, while we do that, right, if we were to continue to keep it this way, as you can imagine, there are so many platforms out there that is trying to capture the same group of audience. It goes without saying that everyone is competing with each other, and also the audience are also not exactly loyal to a particular platform, right? Because today, if I were to watch a show on platform A, and then tomorrow I see something interesting on platform B, I'll switch to platform B. The shows are not released on a weekly basis where it keeps them going, subscribing and wanting more. So the lifespan and the time and loyalty for the apps are kept quite short. Which is why even though where we want to ensure that we capture the same group of audience, I think it's very important for the platforms to, and including ourselves, to find that breakthrough, which I think is due to happen this year. That would help us break out from our standard genres and standard content direction. I think this breakthrough is going to come in a time where the competition is the most intense, and I think that now is the time.
From traditional film TV studios start exploring short drama, like let's say work with COL, what is the biggest misconception you see when they trying to apply long form logic to short drama ecosystem?
I think that traditional TV film studios, platforms, they have a different game altogether. Today, so for example, a platform like Flaflow and even DramaBox, right? They are here to actually have people to pay after 5 episodes, 6 episodes, right? But for a TV channel, an OTT platform, they are not there to do that. Let's just say if Netflix were to launch something, right? They are not going to make you pay more for it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to actually grow their user base, and also capture younger audience and grow their IP. So it's not the same game that we are in. So I wouldn't say that their approach is wrong, but their approach will be a different approach from our approach completely. So what they will do, for example, if today I am like a TV network, right, and I have a show about like let's just say I have a family drama that is very popular, and I want to do a second season. So when I want to do the second season, now I will think, should I do it also with vertical format? Because I want to reach younger audiences. And can I commission this show that way? Whether if they know how to do it is another thing. But I think networks and platforms are starting to think about like, okay, so now how can I do what I do differently? Versus, oh, I need to spend millions of dollars to get people to pay after 5 episodes, because it's two different games. One is a mobile gaming method, where you have microtransaction. The other one is I want to retain my audience. I want to retain my IP. I want to grow my channel. I want to make sure that the people who advertise with me on TV now also advertise with me on app. Different ballgame altogether.
That makes sense. Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
I'm Jill Maxey. I'm a writer and director in the vertical mini drama industry.
How did you enter the short drama industry?
Good question. I had directed an episode of a Netflix series, and I had also directed a lot of short films. And prior to becoming a full-time director, I was an assistant director in the television and feature film industry for over 20 years. And I had always wanted to direct. And I started hearing about verticals maybe the beginning of 24. And a few of them had reached out to me to see if I would work as an assistant director, and I never really got in. But when I went off to do a series for Amazon, came back, and I really kind of targeted really trying to get in there. And once I got in and did one as an assistant director, I saw that I could easily direct these. At that point, Real Short was looking for directors, and I sent my reel in, and they selected me to direct an action film, and I went on to do that for 8 days, and that was my first one.
How do you define short drama, and what do you think the core or essence of it?
I think the core of it is the emotional experience that the audience is having with the two leads, the two romantic partners. I think that everybody wants to go out of their personal life and experience something that makes them feel good. And they have some kind of emotional response to these stories that is important to them.
So what do you think the essence of a microdrama?
I don't know. I think it's the same thing that we've always experienced in great movies and television. There's something about being pulled in immediately with an emotional response to people, that something's happened to them that's important, that they're like, oh, I want to see what's going to happen now. And like, it's just like any show that or a stage play that you watch when you were younger. There's something that really, like for me, Jaws had a massive impact in my life as a filmmaker. Why? Because this woman gets dragged through this ocean back and forth, and she was just having a great time with this guy on the beach drinking beers, and here she is being ripped apart. And I'm like, what happened to her? That is kind of what I want. That's kind of what the microdramas are, is like, what just happened? What am I going to see next?
When you receive scripts from platforms, do you make changes? If you make changes, what aspects do you focus on, and why do you make those changes?
I'll ask the platform, can I make any changes? And I've directed 7, so I'll ask them, can I make changes? And some will say, no, we want the script shot completely like it is. But on other platforms that I've worked with, I have been able to make notations and different and changes, and I generally make changes to the cliffhanger and the emotional beats between the two lead actors, because I know that those are the most important thing that the audience cares about the most. So I'll go in and I'll like, if a scene isn't working, or if it's just what I call it, a copy scene in the middle, say after the paywall, it's just a copy scene that's going, and I have to like make it much more emotional and have a better cliffhanger, especially with somebody coming in and shocking them or opening the door on them, or just, I think an emotional beats have to keep going, or otherwise people are just going to swipe off.
Can you explain more on the emotional beats? What do you mean, the emotional beats between the two characters?
The two leads, the love interest or anybody, they have to have an emotional connection within the phone. So when you're looking at the phone, here, I have to make sure that the connection is right here in the middle, and I have to make sure that the faces are at a certain level. And this is what one of the platforms taught me, is that there's something that's connecting with the phone and where you're putting it with your heart and your emotion. So I need to make sure that the actor's eyes are looking directly very close to the other actor. Like, a lot of people shoot profile like this on verticals, and that's not going to work. We have to shoot really close to the eye line. So I'll go in and I'll write stuff like that. They have more of a, what I call sparkle or sizzle between the two actors, the two characters, and I'll enhance those moments, and then I'll also enhance them in the cliffhanger, where there's much more reaction from the two leads.
The eye line, so it's not directly looking at the camera, right? It's slightly twitch, but
it's
not
right
like
here.
this. Not like this. No.
No. So like, a lot of people do this when they're starting out, including myself. No profiles. Do we want to put the camera traditionally right here? Like if you're on a TV set or a feature film, they'll stick the camera right here, and you and I are talking and you're looking to me. You're not looking at the camera, you're looking to me. So I always make sure that I shoot the camera as close as I can to the subject that you're looking at me, because that I get your eyes in it, and then that's how the customer or the customer watches the content, and that's what they respond to the most. They're not going to respond to this if I'm yelling at you or telling you some information that's important.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's more like the audience like observe what happened between the main characters. Like
That's
they
right.
were there.
That's traditional filmmaking. If you're on like a big movie set or TV, we always have the camera close. And that's what I noticed right away, that wasn't happening with the ones that I was watching or that I was working on. And I had to be very, very strong about what I wanted to do, and put the camera here, lower the camera, if somebody's laying down, say a kid falls down on a scene, or somebody's giving a lecture and someone's on the ground, I'll make sure I put the camera on the ground and look up at them, and then I put the camera above and look down at them, because that is connecting the eyes with the emotion.
The branded short drama, you write the script and pitch to the brand, or they approach to you?
Their producer came to me, we would like you to direct this one.
What do brands really care? Like what to do, what not to do?
Brands want to make sure that their product is not being put in a negative light, that it's in a positive light. They don't want any violence in their brands, the ones that I've been talking to, and they want their product to be spotlighted in a positive manner.
Can you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
Sure. My name's Anthony Darval. Hi, everyone. I'm an actor. I've been acting for a very, very long time, and I started in short dramas in the middle of 2023. It was about June 2023. It was the second short drama that was shot in Australia. I was lucky enough to have a role in that. And since then, sporadic roles here and there until 2025. And 2025 was a much bigger year for me. I had, I'm not exactly sure how many, but a large number of short dramas, including the opportunity to go to China twice, which I was very grateful for, and got to work with some very cool teams over there. And here we are at the beginning of 2026. I'm excited to where it leads me.
If I ask you to describe short drama performing, it's more close to theater performing, or TV advertisement performing, commercials performing, or feature film performing?
I mean, you're still on camera, so I think it's closer to film work. However, with certain scenes, certain characters, certain storylines, there is a bit of a sense of melodrama, and you're encouraged to play the scenes bigger and pace the scenes up. Not all the time. And sometimes if you're in a scene, if we're in a scene together and we're saying the lines and there's not a sort of, we're taking our time with our lines, we're letting the discussion between us breathe. Most of the time in short dramas, they'll edit most of that out, most of those breaths, those pauses, just because of the nature of how it goes. So mostly similar to film acting, but there can be times when you're asked to play it bigger, play it faster, which is a little bit more reminiscent of theater.
A lot of people criticize it's a little bit overacting. Like when you perform in stage, right? It's a little bit overacting because audience have a distance from the stage.
I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but for me, truth is truth. It doesn't matter what the medium is. If you find the sort of truth of your character's experience in the moments that you're playing, you just try and play that and adjust to the medium. So for me, I don't really make that big of a distinction between acting. It's between acting in different formats. It's more so technical. The audience is there, and you've got to make sure that you're being heard in the back of the auditorium, because those people still paid for their tickets, versus when you're on film, you've got a mic. You don't have to project. You still have to make sure that you're heard and understood, because there's this tendency with actors nowadays. There's a lot of mumbling that happens in film. And so lots of people put their subtitles on, even if they speak the same language. But I think about actors like Peter O'Toole or Anthony Hopkins. You've got to make sure that you're understood.
So you basically have your own character description, the whole background story of the character you perform.
And sometimes it's easier than others. I mentioned Cinderella's Royal Secret to you, which was a absolute joy for me to work on. That character was very well written and very likable, funny and charming, and had a lot of great moments. And his character arc made sense. You knew what he wanted, and he was consistent in terms of what he wanted, despite learning things as the script goes on and changing what he was going for. Anyway, so sometimes it's easier than others.
That one, Cinderella's Royal Secret, is it shoots in Australia?
No, it's shot in Xi'an. It was wonderful. Everyone was supportive, the cast, the crew. It was a great experience. There's definitely some cultural nuances that you have to sort of come to grips with, but I've I've traveled a lot with my family, myself as an adult. And so I like getting to go to new places and explore new cultures and meet with other interesting people. Being on set and getting to do the thing that I love in another country, adding the cultural differences on top of that, that was really cool for me.
Why do you think like game is booming or microdrama is booming after the pandemic?
There was a huge isolation aspect for the majority of people. So a lot of people were stuck inside with nothing to do. I know I played a lot of games in my backlog during the lockdowns in Australia, and many other people did as well, because you didn't have much else to do. Same with the short dramas. It was affiliate. You couldn't go to the cinemas. TV was still doing really well, but a lot of people were watching comfort series. So they were watching things they'd already seen again on TV. For example, in 2020, the most watched show on Netflix was The Office, the US version with Steve Carell. And that's quite an old sitcom, but it was so popular, people would just have it on in the background because it was a familiar, comforting thing for them. And then we got so used to being by ourselves, not going out, that it's been harder to convince people to re-engage in that communal way before. It's interesting now because there's actually a large spike in younger people attending religion in the West, because I think people are craving that communal experience, which has been sort of disturbed by COVID.
I actually interviewed our short drama critic. She mentioned a very interesting point. She mentioned she wants secure from watching those short dramas. So maybe that's the reason, The Office was rewatched.
It's like I said, comfort watching. You're not going out. I could give you some examples, but I'm not sure whether you would have seen them, like Deliverance or Cape Fear or Revolutionary Road. These movies that are hard to watch. They're famous because you may only watch them once because they're brilliant, but they're so intense that you're like, I don't need to see that again. Versus something like The Office, which you can just constantly rewatch because it's such a source of comfort and joy.
Did you invent, or it's a phrase that people were saying?
I don't know. It just sort of came to my mind then. It reminded me of comfort food, where people have their food that sort of like them feel warm, safe, and comfortable. It's like that. If I did, then everyone's welcome to use it.
I like your phrase. I think that's one of the core of short drama is. Could you please introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
Thank you, Maggie, for inviting me to attend this interview. I'm Summer from Socialpeta. I worked at Socialpeta for more than 10 years, and I'm the CMO of Socialpeta. Socialpeta is an ad intelligence platform covering 2 billion ads on 40 mainstream ad networks. So we also have the short drama niche version provide both the ad creative inspiration and the top drama performance.
So Socialpeta often uses the volume and trends of creative ads to gauge the population or momentum of an app or a title. Could you explain this logic in a simple and creative-friendly way?
Like I mentioned, Socialpeta possesses all the main ad networks, lots of short dramas. When they run campaigns, they run on the platforms like Meta, TikTok, or Unity. You can imagine that you are an operator of one app or platform. Only when you have a good operation conditions, for example, like your first show was successful, which means you have good cash flow, then you have capability to acquire more users, to make more money through the paid ads campaign. For one successful app, you can see more ads in our dashboard.
We can treat those ads as like free examples in the big supermarket, right?
Yeah.
So the more you sell this product, the more popular of this show is, you will give out more free examples or free, let's say, cakes to eat. If a short drama gains traction mainly through organic social buzz, for example, influencers promoting it, but has little or no paid media buying, would it still look hot or heat from Socialpeta's perspective? And how do you detect or interpret non-paid promotion?
This requires a very important basic understanding of social media, because our business starts from creatives. You can also see that in our official website, we define us as the #1 ad intelligence platform. So all the data on social media are media buying data, and based on this mechanism, that all the top dramas or the contents, they are the dramas using the paid ads campaign.
If they only do like promote it through those influencers, it's hard to detect, right?
If they only promote it by influencers, collaborate the posts on social media, not the paid ads campaign, we won't have it on our dashboard.
Social Pedal's data, what patterns do you see in the most effective short drama ads opening in 2026 so far? Could you share an example of a strong hook structure?
Yeah, we do see some effective formulas for short drama ads. Some very impressive opening, because according to all the advertising mechanism in news feed, the very impressive opening can dominate advertisers' final performance. Like the first 3 seconds rule also works in short drama business, and for majority proportion of short drama ads, it starts with very intense conflicts. That's a very useful hook in short drama creatives.
I know a lot of overseas people are complaining, say, hey, there are too many slaps on the short drama. They don't like it. We treat it as a shock value, quoted shock value. So when you say dramatic, how do you define dramatic? Does it necessarily have slaps or?
Well, this is very interesting question. Yes, slap is one of the most dramatic plots. I need to admit this. And also, I think not all people enjoys this kind of gesture. However, I think the advertiser or the short drama operator, they need to balance the effectiveness and also the viewers acceptance, whether they need to find the balance between the business and also the preference.
Can you give me another example? Like, what is the dramatic thing?
Typically is, for example, there is a very handsome guy with a lady who apparently is his girlfriend. When they just normally walking on a street, there is another lady who is pregnant with a big belly, and she found out my boyfriend is also is with someone else. And another part is she may also find out that that lady is also one of her best friend. This is another typical plot.
Not necessarily including any slaps, but still dramatic, right?
Still dramatic. Cheating, pregnant, fighting. Yeah, fighting. Yeah.
Hi there, my name is Buzz Lear, and I'm the host of the Vertical Buzz podcast.
How do you create the vertical buzz?
About a year and a half ago, after doing maybe 15 to 20 of these verticals, and everybody all got better and better. And as we started to watch this grow, about a year and a half ago, I wondered if anybody was doing a podcast. I had done a podcast a couple of years ago and really had a great experience. But then I started learning about the vertical world and the vertical filmmaking. And just as I learned and started researching, I realized that there wasn't a lot of information out there. Even a year and a half, 2 years ago, not a lot of information. And then it just hit me. I thought, doing a podcast in this space would be a lot of fun. So I just kept thinking about that and writing a bunch of notes and utilizing my chat GPT to make notes and just say, hey, what about this? What about that? Anyway, that's how it came together. And eventually, and I also know that I didn't want to do a podcast that was simply in my garage on a microphone with bad sound and bad video and all that. I wanted it to be a real premium podcast. And that's what we've created in the Vertical Buzz. So I was able to go out, I got some investors, And these investors absolutely believe in the vertical platforms 1,000%. They are all on board. And that's why we're creating a very high end. We shoot on 3 cameras in a great studio and with great sound. And it's a real professional podcast.
And some people, they say short drama is overacting. So when you do the performing, is it overacting or not?
It's vertical acting is what it is. Listen, it is not the subtlety of a cinematic, movie. That's just that format. And what the consumer wants, they want it to be a little bit more amped up. It's amped up in its physicality. It's amped up in its facial expression. It's amped up. It is much more. I've been on soap operas. I've been on Days of Our Lives many times. So it is much more aligned with soap opera acting is what that is. Much more aligned with soap operas, which gives you, bigger movements, bigger moments like, oh no, don't do. It's just a way of acting that is not small. It's big.
You becoming a 4-time actor, you held senior leadership roles in sales and brand development.
Yes.
You see similarities building a brand and building an acting career.
Let me explain also what I also see about this world, that vertical, because we still get it, and again, my only reference is the United States market and Los Angeles market. And so in this market, there's still a lot of pushback on vertical film, particularly the people in Hollywood, the people that are in the industry. There's this, oh no, what is vertical filmmaking? Oh my gosh, do we want to be in this? Do we want to do this? And I think that where that's coming from is that it's more of a sense of change, is that the vertical storytelling world is slowly becoming a big dent in all of entertainment, a big dent. And people are just not quite ready to make that change. My relationship to that in the sales and marketing background that I had, because I was involved in home furnishings and I dealt with the department stores. And back in the day in the US, when there were department stores and there was a home department store in every city, and we had Macy's, and I could name them, but nobody's going to understand what the names were. But there were a lot of brick and mortar and big box retailers. Well, when Amazon jumped into the world and started taking over retail, it was the same. I'm experiencing the same thing in vertical filmmaking as we experienced back in retail. The older people in retail said, oh, nobody is going to want to buy products without seeing them. Nobody's going to buy a pair of shoes without trying them on. Nobody's going to buy a shirt without trying it on and feeling them. All of those things, those are exactly what's being said about vertical films. You can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, nobody's going to want to do this. Nobody's going to want to do that. Well, where are we today? The department store and retail is basically down the toilet. It's gone. But it's not that there's more money being spent at retail than ever been spent before. It's just being spent differently. And that's the same way as it is in films. Vertical filmmaking is just allowing you to watch films differently and in a different mode, in a different format. It's not any better. It's not any worse. It's just different. But it also is allowing for a whole nother world. I don't have to just watch horizontal films. I can watch vertical. I can watch so much more content. And the things where vertical takes over is in a similar space that Amazon did. Amazon can release products faster than any retailer in the world. They can just simply put it up online and put a price on it and a link to buy it and do it. Well, the same thing is happening in vertical filmmaking. The content is being put out so fast. I shot a film last year, a regular traditional horizontal film. It is still not on the market. It's been a year in post-production. It will not even hit the market for 13 months after we shot that film. Well, that's just the traditional film market. This market, I shot 22 verticals last year in 2025. All 22 films are already out on the market. Every one of them is out on the market. Well, maybe not the last 2 that I did in December, but every other film is already out on the market. So it is that way. I mean, it's a change in the environment, a change in our culture. It's a change in the way we watch and get entertained. And that's what vertical filmmaking is doing for me. Listen, it's in the film world going from silent film to talkies when they will all of a sudden had talkie films. It's like, wait a minute, how can you do a film with people talking? From stores to Amazon, from silent films to talk films. You know, you can go back to people back to the horse and buggy. People were riding horses, and the next thing you know, there's a car. Well, I had to go from a horse to a car. Well, people fought that like crazy too. So we are at one of those junctures in the world, in our lives, that is just a market shift. And it's all because of new, creative, innovative, and exciting things that are going on that just tap into two things. They tap into the excitement that the consumer feels, but also the nervousness and the inability to be able to change, because nobody likes change.
Mention about Amazon. Nobody know Amazon will succeed at that time. But
No.
what happened here in the US, like you have actually there is an example on the other side of Earth, which is China. It's already booming.
That's
You can
right.
see
That's
what's
right. That's a great way to say that. I love that. I'm going to use that on the podcast, saying that we can all, there's already a roadmap that's being written in China on where this is going. And we're way down the road. We're not even close to where you guys are right now with vertical.
there are a lot of potential.
That's a
huge
great way.
potential.
I'm sorry, but that's exciting, because you're right. There was no roadmap for Amazon. None knew where that was going or how it was going. This market, you're right. There's already a roadmap being built and done.
Could you please introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
My name is Alicia Reed. I am an actor, producer, and now consultant in the vertical microdrama space. So I have had the privilege of performing in over 20 now microdramas, producing the first co-production here with Real Short, their first original here in Canada, and currently bridging traditional film and television professionals with this new format and arming them with the skills they need to enter the space.
When you preparing, I'm still back to the performing question.
Mm.
So when you're approaching the character for a microdrama, how do you prepare for the role and how do you relate to this character?
So, of course, as an artist, I have a process, where I work with the script. I do as much script analysis as I can. The thing about vertical microdrama is similar to like a Hallmark is that there really is no subtext. There's no sort of read between the lines. It's all on the paper for you. So it really isn't necessarily a question of diving into a character and really having to do all that work of backstory and objective that you might do with something maybe a little bit more sophisticated. And at the same time, we often don't have very much prep. Like I just booked my next role. I start shooting on Sunday. So today is Monday. And that feels like a long time to sit with a 97, 120 page script. We don't often have a lot of time to develop character necessarily through script analysis. The thing about playing a villain, which I most often do, is that in a microdrama, the villain does not have an arc. They don't really have a journey. Their character doesn't have a lot of nuance either. And as well, when we shoot these, a lot of the nuance in our performances may never actually be included because it's all portraiture, it's all the sort of micro moment, and then you're moving on. So knowing that as a performer means I can prioritize things differently than I would with a script that we may shoot horizontally and I might have more preparatory time. And because I know that, for me, it's more about, first of all, I just need to know what's happening in the scene, what my role as the character is. What am I doing to further this storyline along? And there's a bit of freedom in there as an actor, because I think as actors, many of us tend to overthink things. So a lot of us actually end up over preparing, which can sometimes screw your head up, because if you overanalyze and if you over rehearse before you get to camera, everything's going to change when you're there, because your co-stars are going to give you something. You're going to be in a different environment than you were in your head. And your director also may want something very different from you that you saw in the script. So I kind of like that we don't have a lot of prep time, that I can just get dropped in and sort of like play around. But I think really that's the difference for a performer in a vertical microdrama, is that you have to know that this is your frame and all you're doing is moving a story along. And it's almost more about how you look and your reactions to things than it is even about your lines. Right now, where the boys are getting paid way more than the girls, certainly the leads get paid more than supporting leads. That's normal and to be expected because your workload is less than when you're leading. I think that, and I mentioned this earlier, you know, a lot of what the female leads have to deal with in these stories is far more than what the males have to do. We take on the emotional load, and then we take on the physical load. There should be more equal pay.
Actually, I mentioned this when we talk about in another interview, because I think maybe because it depends on the market, because right now it's still female-oriented stories. So those are female audience. Their projection are on those male actors.
Yes.
So the male lead. So
Yeah.
that's why there are more demand for this male lead. So that's
Yes.
why it's higher. I think if you ultimately the increase of the salary of female lead would be male-oriented short dramas. We don't see any of this right now, I think. Well, not many.
I think they're coming out. But I think, you know, I understand why the boys, you know, they're the selling feature, right? So they're bankable. But I think from a work perspective, from a labor, and this is maybe as an actor, your instrument is your body and your mind. And really good actors are really good at using their minds and their bodies to do their job. And we do all kinds of crazy things. And these microdramas are very demanding, sometimes physically. You know, we do a lot of moving, I played one role where, by the way, I had more lines than the lead. I was the aggressor. I played her mom. And for 3 straight days, I was kicking and punching. I didn't get the script ahead of time. They never told me that it would be this physical. So I had no prep. And I was also being thrown to the floor, thrown on a couch. At the time, we did not have a stunt coordinator. We do now. It was a cement floor. Like, it was dangerous and very physical. You know, I've watched some girls who are younger actors who are not trained in what happens when I cry and I do something emotional. You can actually traumatize yourself, or you can activate your trauma. Like, there's so much more than just walking in and crying or whatever it is. Like, you really are using, this is your instrument, and your instrument, if it gets harmed, you can't use it. It's impacted. It needs to be restored. It's very different than when you're hired as a camera operator and your instrument is your camera. I mean, it's also how you use it, but it's just very different. So to understand what is required of an actor, like what your job is, it's not just to go look pretty and say lines and be believable. There are so many things you have to know how to do with your instrument. The female instrument in a microdrama is overworked. The male instrument is not really. So those guys get to walk off the set and, you know, go about their day or their night, go work out, go to bed. But the women are like, you know, you've just gone through so much. You may have bruises. Like, my point is, Maggie, that in that sense, women, female actors should be paid at least as much as the male actors, if not sometimes more.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
First of all, thank you for having me. My name is Bianca. I'm from Germany, and I'm the founder of the Ukrainian Actors and Actresses fandom. When did I founded it? I founded it in end of February 2025. And since then, I'm going straight, and it's getting bigger. To explain it, because I founded it and I had only 7 male actors and 8 actresses in my fandom. And today I have 177 actors and actresses in my fandom, which I'm supporting, where I have all the filmographies, etc. But let me explain it in a different way. I'm not only on Instagram. I'm on a few platforms, the typical social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But our headquarter is actually on Discord. Why Discord? Because I can publish there more information and more databases than I could ever do on Instagram, for example. Because each actor in my fandom have their own profile, where I publish all the social media channels which I found of these actors. And they are not only acting in verticals, they also acting in, I call them mini movies, which are published on YouTube. Because there are platforms like Dramatize Me, Busted TV, and Be Kind. And I never counted them in total, but there must be around 1,600 to 1,800 mini movies with the same actors, which we can see in the verticals. So these mini movies have the lengths mostly between 10 to 20 minutes and tells you a whole story. And so I tried to do the filmographies of those mini movies. But as I said, it's a lot to do because there are so many, and you only can figure out who is acting in there by watching all these mini movies. But also I have the filmographies of all verticals. Why did I founded this fandom? It's pretty easy. First of all, at the point while I founded it, there were barely information about Ukrainian actors, which you could find online. Because most of the actors don't fill out pages like IMDb. That's why I made it my task to create all those filmographies to figure it out. Because the community, if they watch a vertical and think, oh, this actor is great, or this actress, I like her a lot, and which else verticals I can see her, they can find something. So that's why I created this and make it much easier for the community to find more about their favorite actors. But most of all, I'm doing it for the actors and creatives, because I have some showrunners, directors, producers in my fandom as well. But they need to be seen. They need to get recognized because there are barely credits in these verticals.
Do you think short drama has become so popular?
Yeah, because many of the audience, and I'm talking to a lot of them, they have different kind of problems or stress in their life. And they are watching it to escape their problems, but also you can watch it everywhere. So you have 24/7 the availability to watch something like that. But the core is the precision. Every scene needs to deliver something essential, whether it's the character, the conflict, or emotions. There is no space for fillers. Well, the pace is very important sometimes as well, so you don't have to wait so long until the story is going on. And the goal is not just to tell stories, but to create instant emotions, which, where the audience get hooked so fast. You get hooked by the first 10 episodes. If you start watching the first 10 episodes until the paywall wall is starting, and you are not hooked, you don't have to watch the rest. But if you are hooked in the first few episodes, you are watching the full thing.
Normally, when we tell the writers, you should hook the audience in the first 5 or 10 seconds, actually.
Yes. Because most of the stories, which are from all over the world, are not really interesting for us no more because they're repeating themselves all the time. There are no new stories. And mostly you've seen a vertical 6 times, but only with a different cast. And they just change small things in the storytelling. But in total, it's totally the same. Sometimes I have the feeling I can speak the lines of the actors because I've seen the story so often.
Is it because you've watched so many short dramas, but for some newcomers...
No, it's not just me. There are many people in the audience who feel like they start watching in vertical and say, okay, I know the story, and they turn it off. They don't want to see that no more because they are tired of it. And that's what I love, for example, about Ukrainian verticals. They have so amazing script writers in Ukraine, so the stories are unique. I mean, you don't develop the wheel new. You have billionaire CEOs, you have mafia bosses, werewolves, etc. But the stories are really unique, and you don't have the unnecessary banquet scenes. You don't have as much humiliations and the violence against females. You don't have that. Sure, you can't keep violence out of it. I'm always have the example. Just imagine you have a mafia boss who is all lovey-dovey and handing out some flowers and is not violent. it's not working. But the violence is necessary if it's necessary for the story, you know. But like I said, the unnecessary banquet scenes and so on, we don't need that.
What kind of story you mean, apart from those mafia or CEO stories, what kind of story you've seen popular?
Yeah, recently this year, Amo Pictures started with great stories. First of all, Love in Oblivion, which is on Drama Pups. It's a very great thriller, and it's don't feel like a vertical at all. And the cast been outstanding in my eyes. And the second vertical, which I don't call a vertical either, because it's from the genre, is something totally new. The Faking is my shadow daddy. Like the title say, it's about fairies. And you didn't have that yet in the vertical space. And the special effects, the costumes, the cast. Oh my God, I loved it. And which I like a lot too recently is our Ukrainian vertical stars. They are very creative in an artistical way. So there are some verticals where these actors are singing in it.
We do have AI short drama in China. So do you think those actors will replace actors or not?
I hope not. Yes, AI is something big what is going on right now, but I don't hope that because AI can show emotions. I like it more to see it from a human being. You can use AI, for example, for the special effects or something. That's totally cool. But please don't do it to keep all the original actors out of a vertical and take it with AI actors.
But you can't stop AI, right?
No, me as an audience, how can I stop it? The platforms are doing what they want anyway. And that's what I'm always saying, especially regarding all these stories. Those production companies, those platforms should listening more to the audience, what they want to see, what they don't want to see. And don't go after the numbers of how many views a show have, because I'm not sure how they count it. I guess even if there's just an ad somewhere and you see the show, I guess it's count as a view as well. But it's count as a view for the whole show, even if you turn it off after one episode because you don't like it. So that's mean nothing in so many eyes of the audience if a show is good or not. Listening what the audience want to hear, because I had once an interview with Anton Skripets. He is the licensing and partnership executive of Amo Pictures. And he was saying, there are two people in this vertical space. On the one hand, the investors, on the other hand, the audience. And I said, hold on, the audience are investors as well, because there are so many vertical apps and we are spending so much money to get coins or subscriptions. We are investing as well. So that's necessary that these platforms should listening more to the audience.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
I'm the CEO of AR Asia Productions, and I've been in the industry actually for more than 20 years. Previously, I was in CJ and Paramount International, and about 4 years ago, I started my company representing different studios in the region, and 3 years ago, we got into microdrama. We started representing different apps and studios, and until late last year, we actually signed an exclusive representation deal for Real Short, Asia Pacific.
How did you get into the short drama industry?
It's actually one of our partner, Jonathan Spink, who is the former CEO of HBO. He got us into it. He think that this is something very exciting in China. We have to take a look at it. We start talking to one of the app and start doing work for them, representing them.
What kind of things did you see when you realized or decided to tap into this area?
Anybody who started watching the microdrama, they probably think it's cheap in production. And especially we distribute a lot of long form drama. Initially, you probably think, oh, it's nothing compared to a long form drama. But once we actually dive into the business of microdrama is it's very short monetization. You actually get the feedback. And the interesting thing is big studios, they take years to gain the experience, but because microdrama is very short, it iterate a lot. So platforms and producers, they learn about the customer feedback instantly. And I find it grows very fast and the market is booming. So that's why we continue to do what we did. So we've been since then we've been like do in the microdrama field for more than 3 years.
Why do you think Chinese short drama have been able to achieve such a successful breakthrough in both Asia and global markets?
This is a great question. A lot of people think that, okay, it started in China, and I read your book as well, Maggie, during the COVID, from, web novels to Douyin, and microdrama is kind of like a cross between, I think that is the DNA. I think that is the DNA. And I think the explosive growth really, it has to come up with localization and how do you sort of adapt the right format. Case in point, I know globally how it just explode. Recently, I think, Real Short actually, adapt one of the show called Move Aside, I'm the Final Boss. It's a Chinese IP, but they were able to actually adapt it to the taste of the Western audience. In US and, in Europe, it did very, very well in terms of numbers. And then it managed to hit more than 300 million views. So how to translate the IP and produce locally to cater to different audience is very, very important to lead to the explosive growth.
I'm just curious, how do they keep the IP and do the adaptation?
Yeah, it's very good. So I asked I asked Joey the same questions. Originally, I saw the show in US. I thought it's a US show. He said, no. This is like a Chinese IP. So they show me the Chinese IP. And the way they did it is very interesting because they create the character, recreate the character to adapt. It's basically a story about a retired officers that got dumped by the girlfriend and basically, marry a successful, high-risk, billionaire. So they actually, instead of just xiaolongbao to hamburger, they actually adapted to cater to the taste of Western audience. So it's a naval officer. Everything makes you feel that it's different, but I think ultimately the microdrama is pretty straightforward story. That's why it's easier for them to adapt. And then a lot of, whether it's a character, whether it's the style that can resonate with the audience, they grasp it very well, and they consistently, the studio, Crazy Maple Studio, consistently actually did a fantastic job. So that's, I think, the more you do, like Joey said, the more you fail, the more you learn. And they have been producing hundreds of the shows, and that's why I think they have a lot of learning from that.
You just mentioned about what they changed in the main character. What do they keep for this microdrama, Step Aside the Final Boss?
I think initially they told me it's catered to the tier 2 cities in China. It's a very male focus. So, rather than rom-com, it's very different. They feel, the guys actually feel under power. So I think this is something for them to 爽剧, make them feel good. Retired naval officer got dumped by the girlfriend and marry a rich woman, right? So it's fantasy, but a little bit, for the male. They build up the characters in US. It's a very handsome military naval guy come back in terms of the emotions. Everything actually, it's quite westernized, rather, because I remember I was reading the Chinese script, and it's the concept is the same, but when you look at the Chinese script and the US show, it's quite different. So they did quite a bit in changing the cast, the environment, the characters, adaptation to cater to the local taste.
What do you think are the challenges or maybe advantages female professionals and entrepreneurs face in short drama industry?
Can I take advantages?
Yeah.
Because look, currently a lot of the genres of the microdrama is still woman focused. I I'm one of the consumer of the microdrama, and I find it's quite interesting because we'll be able to sell and talk about things that relates to us as women. And I think that is the benefit. And then there are a lot of women in the industry like yourself, good woman entrepreneur. And then through microdrama, I'm able to actually meet up with really good people. So I think it's a benefit for me.
I mentioned about the scripts or female characters because you mentioned about your audience as well. Are there any ways to improve in the woman character or female lead in a short drama?
I don't know because I'm not the perfect producer. I'm not as experienced as you do. You're right. I mean, like I'm not very young, so I would like to see something resonate with more sort of mature women demographics rather than because I think a woman desire more than just good-looking guys feel in love and happy. There are more sort of emotional satisfaction that can be explored. I mean, even sports. I mean, for some reason, I know men, they like superhero, right? But why not a super? I mean, like I saw, for example, American Sniper is a man superhero, and then Real Shot is a new version for women. But I think I would love to see more sort of athletic superhero for women. Yeah, so more woman character that has superhero, and I think for the modern woman, I think that is more preferred than because there are different types of women watching microdrama instead of just housewife, right? So I look forward to see those characters.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
Thank you for having me. I'm Sandra. I'm the founder and editor of Behind the Verticals. And essentially, Behind the Verticals is a Substack-based newsletter and media brand covering all things vertical drama, the industry. We have expert interviews. We do a roundup of the news of the week. And yeah, really the idea is to bring together all the news that are relevant to vertical drama professionals and those aspiring to be.
How did you first get into short drama?
I came across vertical dramas or short dramas through TikTok, so many, and my background is in digital marketing, media, and journalism. So I was very curious about just like the back end of things, the industry. I started researching as I do. I like anything that has to do with tech and innovation and sort of new business models. So got really interested in that. And then I saw a gap in terms of like, kind of like a B2B publication that's dedicated solely to vertical drama. I mean, there's obviously what you do, which is amazing. And there's Vertical Drama Love, which Jen Cooper runs. I believe you had her on in the last forum. Those are publications that obviously I also came across during my research. And yeah, it was just like something I was looking to do. And it came at the right time because I was looking to kind of create like a sort of B2B Substack publication anyway. So it just kind of like, all came together at the right time for me.
Your background is media study, right? Research. How does that help with the Behind the Verticals?
I used to work in sort of like freelance journalism and broadcasting like way back when, before I moved into digital marketing. I worked with like, big brands and in-house and then with advertising agencies. So like I have a lot of like transferable skills, and like you said, I have a master's degree in media studies, so I kind of like have researched a lot of like concepts, back in the day, kind of when blogging was a thing. I wrote my master's thesis on that, for example. I wrote on broadcasting. So anytime there's a new sort of like technology or concept, especially as it pertains to media, I would always look into it, no matter if it was for academic or professional or personal purposes. So yeah, there wasn't that much information. Obviously, there's a tradition in Asia, so I was like, digesting any information that was available in that regard as well. Having said that, obviously coming from like more the English-speaking world, if you will, my goal was to kind of create a publication that's primarily targeting English-speaking audiences. Obviously, the US being a big market, Canada, the UK. We just hosted a webinar on like vertical drama in the UK, for example. Europe is, a smaller market, but things are happening. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on that. Australia as well. So just like those more English-speaking markets.
Because I also do interviews like I'm interviewing right now, right?
Yeah.
Most of my questions are from industry perspective. For example, I will ask, how do people define short drama and what's the core genre? I will ask you later. And mostly from the industry perspective to know how to write short drama and what's the best suggestion to a newcomers. So what is your interest when you do the interview? For example, some people were like the personal, feeling towards like short drama or some personal stories. What's your focus when you do the interview?
It obviously depends who I'm interviewing, but my goal really, we have a big sizable community now, both on Substack as subscribers, as people who are following behind the verticals, but also on LinkedIn. We have both the LinkedIn page as well as like a vertical drama professionals group. And really the idea is to get as much information that's kind of a bit, I don't want to say paywalled, but because that's a term that is obviously being used for like for apps and platforms, but it's kind of a bit gate kept. So if you haven't been on a set for vertical, you've heard maybe some stories, but like I can speak to people to really give us that behind scenes look. So really, from like, how does your crew look like? What are some lessons learned? How many episodes have you shot on your recent project? How did this all look like? If I'm talking to a writer, or someone who has self-financed a vertical drama, those are things that, I see in all the different groups and whatnot that I'm in, that are being asked, like, how can I do that? How do I like make that first step? So those are, for example, questions. AI comes up all the time. I'm personally very curious about that, having dabbled in like AI filmmaking myself. So that's obviously always a question. And then also like, I'm always curious, just like, what is everyone predicting, even though no one's a fortune teller, but what is everyone predicting kind of for the next 12 months? I wouldn't even dare to ask like, years down the road, because the industry is just changing so rapidly. So even in the few months that I've been covering things, things have evolved so much. So I'm always just curious. And, some answers are around business models, how they might change. Storytelling is a big thing. Like, will the storylines that we're seeing right now change to like show different perspectives, different tropes, different genres? And obviously, like, also coming from a marketing background, branded verticals are a hot topic right now, with lots of stakeholders that I talk about. So that's obviously something that I'm quite curious about when I speak to people at the moment.
So speaking of the male stories, female story, let's talk about female stories first. You mentioned about there are some storylines that are not they're acceptable for the audience. What kind of, can you give me an example? What kind of storylines it's not acceptable, or character design?
Yeah, I mean, speaking to actors, speaking to writers, speaking to anyone on set, it's mostly those like storylines around slapping someone. Or I've heard from actors, they were on set where they had to like push a child down, I don't know, a bridge or something. Obviously, it doesn't actually happen like that, but you're trying to that on film. So, there's certain like movements that happen, and it's just things like that. Everyone I've spoken to, they're taking intimacy coordination really seriously. But I heard from, actors even up to last year that, that wasn't always the case. That wasn't so defined. So they were kind of on their own. So I think those people that I've spoken to, they are taking things like that very seriously at this point.
So what do you think it can be improved? I mean, for example, the female characters, what kind of female character would you like, or the people you've spoken to, what they like?
Yeah, what I find really inspiring is definitely, and mostly it's people women who have taken kind of a stab at creating their own verticals and self-finance them, that have like kind of produced them around stories that are relevant to mature women. So, 40 plus, 50 plus, 60 plus even, that, maybe have like a group of women as well, where maybe the women are not always just playing like a villain or a matriarch or something, that, just the storytelling is more empowering for women. But also like with just the generic storyline storylines, even if we're sticking to the tried and tested tropes. Just like the ending is maybe more empowering for women. There doesn't need to be, you know, slapping. There's a other way to solve that, just in terms of storytelling. So there's arguments, you know, on both, and that, you know, we should try to stick to what works. But then if you don't try all these different approaches, then also the numbers won't be able to speak for themselves and say, okay, people actually prefer this. And again, I bring up Jan Cooper a lot, but yeah, you know, she always talks about having spoken to so many fans over the last year and a half, 2 years. You know, everyone who's been following this space and watching is getting also tired of these kind of tried and tested storylines. So they're looking for something different, also like branching out into different genres. So I'm hearing thriller is quite big. Horror will be, you know, a topic this year for sure. Obviously, YA, you know, young adult content is being produced as well. So yeah, I think the fans that have been around for a while, they also want to see, you know, something different and new, without, obviously, you don't have to sway all the way away from what works, but there's definitely like lots of creatives out there, story writers that have great ideas.
Yeah, I hope to see that those kind of variety of stories in North America as well, because here in China we have half male-oriented stories and half female-oriented stories. Like CEO romance story, just part of the female-oriented stories.
Yeah.
Have you seen any popular proven records of any horror or thriller? I'm just curious, personally curious.
Once I haven't seen any per se, but to be honest, it's not like horror definitely is not my kind of thing. I know there's definitely like apps that have them, but I know of many writers who are actively working or have just submitted horror projects. And from what I'm hearing, it's something that the platforms are looking for. And obviously, it is also a topic that is also of interest to men, for example. So also, you know, opening up another audience in that regard, as earlier discussed. So I think right now, a lot of it is, from what I'm hearing, in production or about to be in production. So towards the end of the year, we should be seeing more of that.
About the branded short dramas, have you seen any successful one or interesting case you want to work with the audience?
Yeah, so I mean, like kind of like just at the moment, sort of in North America, P&G did the micro series. I actually interviewed the head writer. They had multiple writers on the project, but I was able to speak to one of them. And so that's like a recent sort of case study. Crocs just had one come out. I've not kind of seen the success yet, but it just came out, so I can't speak to like numbers or anything. There was an attempt with Maybelline kind of towards the end of last year. Having said that, it wasn't filmed like directly just as a vertical per se, and also wasn't created necessarily by people who are producing verticals on a day-to-day basis. So that was kind of a bit of a critique point the industry had on that. But yeah, I know there are definitely like agencies and people actively working on that. Having worked in marketing, I know especially the bigger the company, the longer things can take, which kind of clashes a bit with the approach of like verticals that are produced so quickly and, you know, work at rapid speed. So yeah, it will really come down to, you know, finding the right stakeholders, getting approvals as soon as possible. As soon as there's like, you know, IP or branding or any sort of legal aspect involved, things can take a bit of time. So I think just what I'm seeing, all these conferences right now, it's a hot topic. So I think, you know, and again, towards the end of the year, we probably will be seeing more of this as well.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
Yes, my name is Megan Johnson, and I actually have an Instagram account on Instagram, obviously, and I love to review vertical dramas. And I also have become a little bit of an audience opinion leader. I've gotten onto the industry side quite a bit. I've had a lot of FaceTime with people in the industry, just representing the audience and maybe what they want, and also what I want as an audience member. But I love this space. It's growing so fast. It's been fun to watch it in the past year since I've been involved. So that's me. You can see me at Real Drama.
You just joined last year. Well, that's not a long time, just a year.
I started watching about a year ago. And I started watching after my father passed away. I think a lot of people, when you talk to a lot of audience members, they usually come to this space in some point of trauma in their life or grief, or at some point in their life, it's usually connected with something similar. And so, I just came to this space. I was on Facebook. I was really grief stricken, losing my dad. And it's like an ad popped up for one of the verticals on Facebook, like everyone else. And I was like, what is this? This is kind of odd. So I watched a couple, and then I was like, oh, and then it popped up again. So I watched a couple more. And then it was like, if you want to watch more, download the app. I'm not going to download an app to watch a show. I'm not doing that. Oh, but I downloaded the app, and then it got to the paywall, and I'm like, I am not paying to watch this. Oh, I paid to watch it. And then it started this whole cycle, and I think I watched 100 in the first month. So that's kind of how I came to watching vertical dramas. My pace has definitely slowed since then, but I think it was from this place of grief. And then I just became really fascinated with kind of like, why are these so popular? What is it about this world that draws us to it emotionally? I'm an American Studies major, and I love cultural studies. I find them to be super fascinating. And I also love psychology because I majored in psychology too. So it's this weird mashup of like psychological exploration and like cultural nuance and why are we here? So I stayed for so many reasons, but I still love verticals. I still love watching them. Oh, and then I started my account. Who's making fun of these online? These are hilarious. These are so campy and fun. And I went online and no one was making fun of them. I'm like, I'm not going to start an account for verticals. And here I am a year later, and full on career change, everything.
So if you have the chance to ask platform founder, what kind of question based on data will you ask?
I think the last little kind of like, I don't rant very often, like I said, because I really do believe in just supporting the stuff I love. I don't like to harp on the stuff I don't like. But the last thing that I kind of ranted about on my Instagram account was, what exactly are you tracking? And if I get on the app as someone who's paid for the subscription, does that matter more to you or less? If I am on the app and I am kind of navigating through and pressing, like, are you following where I stop and where I start? And how are you using that data? So if I stop because a child comes on the screen in that episode, if I pull out, because I'm like, oh, I don't watch anything with children, how do you process that? Like, how do you process me leaving and not returning to watch? How do you process, if I get all the way to the end, how do you process that? Do you think it's because I liked it? Why do you think I got to the end on that one? Ask how you separate between someone who's been around for a long time in your app and someone who's new. That would be definitely a question I would have. Like, do I count still? Even though I've already paid you, I paid for a yearly subscription on some of these apps because you watch enough of them, it's worth it. But then there's some I stop watching. Like, I haven't opened a couple apps in a long time because I don't trust them, right? Because I don't want the violence. I don't want to give them any reason to keep creating gratuitous violence, I should say. Because, there is a line between exploitation and exploitative violence and clickbait violence, and then violence that does like kind of propel a story. So but yeah, that's kind of what I'd ask is like, how do you process that data? What does it translate into what you're going to create next, what you're going to fund next? Because everyone says the audience chooses what gets funded next, right? But that's not always true. I am choosing from what you chose to create. I'm not choosing every time I open an app. It's not like a free market. It's not like I'm choosing from every vertical ever created. I am choosing from which new ones that you're choosing to supply. And I'm a lot of times, or sometimes I'm choosing from the least worst option. It doesn't mean every time I press play, it's because I'm like, oh, this one looks so good. It's like, oh, this one looks okay, I guess. I always put it on the audience that I'm the one choosing. I think that that's such a false narrative, and it gives some of these apps an excuse to keep amping up the exploitative emotions, the drama, the violence, the plot lines that just are so bizarre and so inappropriate from like my mommy heart and like just a humanity standpoint. They keep saying that's what the audience wants. And I'm like, I had asked them in an app, do you really think that's what I want? Do you really think I want to watch this? Like, do you really think that's what I'm asking to watch? Because I have a feeling 90% of the people who are watching these verticals, and I can tell you from in all of my connections, they don't want that. But that's what the app is offering. And some of these app watchers who come into this space and they've subscribed, they can afford one new app every 6 months. They're stuck with what the app has to offer. And, you know, if they just keep ramping up the violence, then you're like, okay, I guess I'm just choosing, you know, this one will be okay. As a subscriber, I do feel a little bit overlooked because I know a lot of these apps just really rely on churn and they just are like, you paid your money, you're gone. I'm just to the next person, you know. A lot of it does get pushed on the audience because I feel like we are the ones signaling through what we watch. And a lot of us on Instagram have tried really hard to not watch the ones and not even press them, the ones that we feel like are going too far. I do not want to see a pregnant woman be beaten until she is like miscarries. Like, I'm sorry, no.
Psychology about short drama.
Why are we watching? Just from a basic standpoint, the reason that women especially are drawn to vertical dramas is, especially around the world, especially globally, you know, it's not always that it's the man in your life who has put you down. We all have circumstances where we are coming from some type of like trauma, or it could be culturally. We feel that we're not able to express ourselves the way we want. We feel trapped. We feel burdened. It could be like the government. There's so many different ways that you can feel that, right? Like your family culture. It's not just violent. You know, it's not like you were just abused by your parents, which is always so sad if that's the case too. But so I think like one reason we love vertical dramas is because we're saved, because someone saves us and they don't ask questions. Like there's something so enticing about that across the board, especially for women, you know, who feel helpless in all the different ways. So anyway, I have a couple different, especially why women might like violent verticals and why they might be drawn to that too. I have a whole article on that too.
I once read a Chinese article. It just analyzed about hundreds of Chinese titles, because normally the titles are the core story, core idea, right?
Yep.
It analyzed the social anxiety of Chinese women and men.
Influence of like the Eastern culture coming into our Western entertainment world right now, like
Chinese story, and they translate and localize it.
There's still some stuff that's a little clunky. Sometimes like the medical stuff bugs me, like the medical desperation. I'm like, we have insurance here. And here in the United States, if someone is injured, the hospital has to help them. They have to help them. There is no, can you pay for this? So sometimes like that plot line is still so prevalent. And I'm like, I just like roll my eyes every time. I'm like, oh, because it puts the woman in a position of desperation because she wants to save her dad or her mother or, you know, or her child. You know, I get why they use it, but still it's like, oh, can we get rid of that plot line, please? It's like the last stronghold. But yeah, we have better consent now. You know, consent here in the States is really important when it comes to sexual relationships, and you know, it's getting better. Yeah, the localization. Some of those early verticals, you're like, ooh, that does not work well here in the States, you know, and not because we're better. It's just different. We're just different. We just mindset about certain things. So. But yeah, fun to dig some of those storylines and where they come from and where their roots are.
Some Chinese story, I don't get it at all. I don't know why people are watching that. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
Some toxic relationship.
Then there's also the storyline where the woman tries to leave her husband after like 3 years because he's just been such a jerk. And then because she leaves, he's like, oh, I love you. And then all of a sudden he like becomes a different man and she takes him back. Like those ones bug me too. Oh, that's just not very real. Like he's not going to just turn around in a week and become a different person, you know, but like I don't need real. Sometimes I just want to escape. That doesn't mean I don't want nothing. You know, that doesn't mean I don't want just like some garbly goop that doesn't make sense. I want a story, but again, I don't need like Apple TV or like A24 dramas or the next film festival circuit winner, you know, something so human and deep. I just want a good story that makes sense. in the end.
Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role in short drama industry?
So hi, thanks for having me here, Wen. So my name is Sarah. I am a Philippine-based reviewer. My account is at Escapism via Verticals on Instagram. So I've been in the vertical drama review space since I think January of 2025. So it's been more than a year. Aside from being a reviewer, I'm also trying to work closely with Philippine-based vertical drama apps to really build a community here in the Philippines, as well as with international vertical drama reviewers.
You also have a lot of followers in your accounts. So have you discussed any stories that they don't like? I interview many creators all over the world. So one of the issue they mention is they don't like those violence, as you said. So I'm just curious, is anything in common that your followers don't like?
What I noticed is everyone that I have talked to, we don't like, aside from the violence very specifically, they don't like verticals that actually have violence, that explicitly violent scenes against animals. I have a group of reviewers. Whenever I would see a scene in that vertical, that I noticed that they're killing an animal, or like, sorry for the word, but like they're abusing an animal. I send it to them and say, don't, so be careful because they actually kill a dog or a cat in this story. And then immediately people will be like, I'm not watching that, I'm skipping that. Um, it's something that I've also seen other people post about. Why are you drowning a dog? Why are you beating up a dog? Or why are you throwing a cat into the trash or dropping them from a high-story building? One of the times that did happen, there were behind the scenes photos of the actors with this very cute dog. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited for this vertical. And then when it came out, they did not do good things to that dog. So I was like, actually, maybe I should not have been excited about this. But that is something that a lot of people have been in agreement on, that showing it explicitly on the screen. That is really something that no one wants to see based on what I've at least gotten from my conversations with them.
What kind of scenes throw a cat or a dog? Is it to show that it's a really bad villain?
Yes, to really emphasize how bad the villain was. So there was this one scene where, oh my God, it really broke my heart. They beat this dog to death. And then they even put in audio of it whimpering to its last breath. And that was just so terrifying for me because I have two dogs. And when my dogs cry, my heart breaks already. So just to hear like that on a vertical, which is also terrifying in the sense that when you watch verticals, it's so close up. You watch on your phone because it's small. So usually your screen is here to your face. And then you see a scene like that happening, it amplifies that. And that's the kind of scene. I've seen one where a dog was tied or trapped in a dog house and then thrown into the pool to drown. Kind of those kinds of scenes that I wish they didn't include. I feel like the story could have progressed without that. I think the villain is terrible enough for that. So those are the kinds of scenes that I've seen that I wish I didn't. If enough people speak up on it, maybe they'll tone it down a bit.
I know you recently wrote your first short drama script. If you would like to share with us, what motivated you to start writing and what kind of story did you choose?
So since I like rom-coms, it's a rom-com. I do think a lot of the reasons, okay, while watching Verticals, since it's very short, I usually end up thinking what's gonna happen next, and then it doesn't happen. So I have this like log, it's just a small journal of things that, oh, in this story, I wish this happened instead. So a lot of those built up in my head, and I was like, let's go, let's find something, let's write something that would put into consideration those things that I felt was missing in certain stories. And a lot of representation also. I think there is in Western stories, especially, there's still a lot of space for different faces, different representations in those stories that could still have longer, that could have more exposure for us. So a lot of reasons. I also am very much a creative writer. I grew up writing. So it just never became my career, but I enjoy creative and adventures. I love writing. I have certain story concepts that I really do want to see come into reality. And it's been great. I've gotten to talk to a lot of industry people, even the actors, the actresses, other writers in the space. They've been great in giving feedback and in giving advice for that.
Did watching so many microdramas help you start your writing?
I think in a way that it helped me know how to end episodes and knowing the pacing of how an episode would go. I can't write a very long episode. This scene is going on for so long. I don't think I would like this if I was the viewer. Oh, it starts with this kind of scene. I don't think I would watch if it ends that way. So it has been helpful as a viewer of so many vertical dramas already.
Is your story influenced by some verticals that you watch, or
definitely there are influences in stories that I've seen also. I think it's one of the things that I do acknowledge about verticals is that there really is a formula. There really are certain elements, certain tropes, or certain scenes that people enjoy seeing in the story. And I don't mean the violence or the banquets, but certain small scenes that people like to that make people keep watching. And that's me too. There are certain scenes, like I love umbrella scenes. I love seeing scenes where the guy comes in with an umbrella for the girl. It's such a simple scene, but I love those. And so there really are certain elements that are definitely influenced by certain stories that I've seen.
What about any difficulty you encounter during the writing process? Is something that you feel seems easy before you start writing, but when you write it, it's kind of difficult?
It's really fitting it into the 1 minute, 2 minute frame, because you want to tell a story that makes sense. But at the same time, the time span is so short and there's so many things that could happen. And it becomes difficult to avoid over explaining it. And so the thing is with verticals, what I like about it is it's both also catchy when you watch. It's not just the action or the words that they say, but also the scene itself, how it's composed. And so those are things that need to be considered. Like, okay, when I close my eyes and I imagine this scene, what are people doing? And since there's so little time, you really have to choose, okay, like this cannot be included because there's no more time to pan to that person for the reaction, or there's no more time for this person to say this. You need to have it shown in the video or in your script without words so that it could fit in that time frame, because once it gets too long, it's too dragging. And as a viewer, I don't like dragging scenes because I would skip that if it becomes too long. I'll go to the next episode. Anyway, it's just 1 minute that I will miss. So those are considerations that, oh, this is kind of, finding the perfect balance. Even till now, the scenes that I've written down in an episode, I'm not sure if that would actually fit in 1 minute, because I wish I could film it right now, kind of those kinds of things. I wish I could film it so I know it will fit. But unfortunately, I just have to trust that it will. Even I think sometimes I get surprised when I hear about certain scenes being 70 pages long. And I'd be like, so those are several episodes, right? How many episodes are in those 70 pages? A banquet scene being 100-page long. Banquet scene, how did it reach 100 pages? And those are questions that I always ask. That's really the main challenge for me, really just trying to fit it in, squeeze it into the time frame that is the perfect sweet spot.